There we go.
Mentira fue la tarde tu pasado. Mentira fue la tarde tu pasado.
What's going on, everybody? It's the In the Money DFS podcast, hosted as always by myself, Justin, and joined by Dan. What's going on, Dan?
Justin, good to see you as always, man. Ready to rock and roll here. Week 9. It's got to be a little bit of a bounce back week for us. As last week was, it was tough, man. It was tough. We talked about the highs and lows of DFS. I was on a high going into last week, built up a nice bankroll, and that bankroll has vanished. So I got to start building it back up here in week 9.
And hopefully we can do that. I mean, last week was tough. Before we started recording, we mentioned how just not a good week for fantasy football in general. And basically, if you had Dalvin Cook, you probably won some money. If you didn't, then you probably didn't win any money because that man just was like one of the only players to really have a good week last week.
I'm mad because, we did talk about that Green Bay, Minnesota game. Liked it. It's one of the 3 games I liked the most. And I went against the grain a little bit. I had a Green Bay stack, so I was thinking in the right direction, but I didn't play it back with Cook. I played it back with Justin Jefferson. I didn't, normally I even take a few variations. We knew Cook was just coming back from a groin injury, and that just, I don't know, it just scared me away. And I am mad at myself for doing that. Like you said, if you didn't have Cook, you missed a big week. If you did have Cook and maybe a Miami stack at 2,400, they had 20-some points from a defense. I'm looking back at my notes, Justin, and 3 plays that I was on most of the week, and then I just didn't stay heavy with it. Was the Miami defense. I ended up tinkering too much and then bumping up my defenses. Corey Davis at 5,100. He had a good game in Tennessee. DJ Dallas over there in Seattle had 2 touchdowns, and again, just wasn't sure how the play was going to work out. So kicking myself a little bit, but this week I'm no fear weekend here in week 9.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. We gotta bounce back for the people. But before we get into this Thursday night game and this upcoming week slate, my Twitter's at Justin_FFB. Your Twitter's at FFCoachDan. The podcast Twitter's at InTheMoneyDFS_. Subscribe if you're new. We're live on YouTube as always every Thursday night around 7 o'clock Eastern. So for our live stream viewers, Dan, this game is disgusting. I don't want to play. I'm not touching DFS in it. I don't care. Go ahead. What's up? This is the same thing last week. All these Thursday night games suck. NFL needs to fix this. One, they found out Kendrick Bourne's test was a false positive. So how hard is it to push the game back one more day or just make it Sunday? It makes no sense. You're having 5 players that aren't going to be playing like a Ayuk. It's just frustrating. It's so stupid.
I love it. First, I admire your expectations because they are up here for Thursday night football. Justin expects Bucks and Saints every Thursday night.
I do.
The best games, or Miles Sanders and Tua every Thursday
night.
Prime
time, man. Prime time. I need some action. I don't want to watch Nick Mullins throwing to. Oh yeah, that's right. Everyone's got COVID or was near a COVID pot. It's so stupid, Dan. Don't even get me started. Go ahead.
But I'm greedy tonight, and I have an ulterior motive. I am stoked for tonight's game. Okay. And here's why. Here's why.
We're on 2 opposite sides of the spectrum.
We always, me, I could just bet on anything DFS wise, so I'm always happy. But Green Bay, hopefully Aaron Jones is playing tonight, so I'm just crossing my fingers he gets enough snaps and has a good volume here because I have him in mini dynasties, and then I will be playing him tonight in DFS. So I do hope his snap count stays and he makes it through 4 quarters. But as you know, I work at Lackawanna College. And there's this guy named Kevin White, who's a former first-round draft pick by the Chicago Bears. And my buddy Kevin, his helmet's autographed downstairs in my man cave. Great college career, but he just has not been able to stay healthy. And tonight, with Ayuk out and Bourne out and Debo out, there's no one else except for Trent Taylor. Ross Dwelly. I'm a little nervous that Jordan Reed got activated, but he should start tonight. He has been on their active roster. He's been mostly playing special teams. Justin, he's a talented kid. He's in great shape. He's fast. He could jump. If he stays healthy and gets some targets tonight, there's your DFS sleeper, and I'm going to be just biased rooting for the Niners tonight, and hopefully they don't just get shellacked by Green Bay because their practice squad is starting.
I can't argue. I can't argue against your boy, man. I hope Kevin White has a good game for you. I want you to have that experience, and I hope he does kind of go off tonight. It'd be cool to see a guy whose, anticipation was really high, and it's kind of now, hasn't really done much because of injuries and whatnot. So I hope he does have a good game just for your sake, and it'd be cool to see a guy like that ball out, especially when the opportunity is there tonight. So.
It would be a good moment for him and the family. I mean, his brother's the starting linebacker for the Chargers. I mean, it's a very athletic family. The genes are there. The talent's there. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I'm really interested to see if Kyle Shanahan could keep the Niners in this game. We always see how he gets creative and just finds ways to manufacture offense. If Nick Mullins could have a decent game, Hasty and McKinnon are just running decent in the backfield, you just never know, So
Yeah.
I
will
think
say
he'll be genius status tonight if he could keep this a close game.
Yeah, I mean, my one friend's a Packers fan, and I was like, so how much do the Packers going to win by tonight? It's pretty obvious a lot of people are the Packers are heavy favorites. And he says, as long as Mike Patine is defensive coordinator and Kyle Shanahan is on the other side, you can never assume that. I was like, that's fair, man. I mean, you can't assume. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I believe that Kyle Shanahan can make this an interesting game.
Yeah, like if this was like a Dallas Cowboys offensive staff coach in the game, I'd be like, it's going to be a Packers onslaught. But with Kyle Shanahan, the insight you brought to our listeners tonight, Justin, through your friend there, who's got a good heartbeat on his team, knows the Niners have a chance tonight, and they're at home. It's over/unders like around 50 points there. It could be a surprisingly competitive game. Everything's got to go right for the Niners. It's not going to be easy. I have two scripts tonight: a Devontae Adams captain script and a Green Bay Packers defensive captain script. It all depends how this one plays out.
Dan's liking the defensive captain script because it helped him almost win a lot previous weeks. But hey, I mean, I don't hate it, man. The defenses, especially with Nick Mullins throwing to nobodies, it's either going to be a run-heavy approach for the 49ers, or it's going to be a Nick Mullins disaster, or the off chance that Nick Mullins just lights it up. But you saw what Green Bay's run defense looked like last week. We mentioned at the start of the show, Dalvin Cook going off and winning people weeks and lots of money last week. So wouldn't surprise me to see a run-heavy approach by 49ers, even if they're down. And I think that JaMychal Hasty is the guy to keep a name on. It's my running back truther, just my dart throw in all my rookie drafts. And I mean, I said always is a couple injuries away, and next thing you know, a couple injuries happen, and here we are. This season is just basically all luck at this point. I mean, I've given up hope, and there's just obviously some skill still involved, but everything you thought you knew is just out the window, and the NFL is ever changing, teaching us that we got to keep adapting, and that's just the nature of the NFL. Every year we think someone's going to go off, and either they don't or they get hurt, something happens, but lots of unpredictable variables you can't really expect to happen have happened, and now we adjust. So we're here, and JaMychal Hasty, baby, he's in play. You like JaMychal Hasty tonight?
You're getting he's highly priced. That's the only thing that's like at 7,200. I think the Niners do try to replicate like a mini Dalvin Cook performance there. So I kind of like McKinnon more because I just think the Niners are going to be manufacturing offense, a little dink and dunk, get it to McKinnon, get it to Ross Dwelly. These receivers, Trent Taylor in the slot. I think they're just going to have to manufacture drives down the field, and they'll mix in Hasty. I do like Hasty. I just don't know I love him. But I'm tinkering with some lineups here, just kind of seeing how I could play this with JaMychal Hasty.
Yeah, I mean, this going to be a weird. I'm curious to see what wins. I mean, most probable for what wins the DFS tournament style is probably Devontae Adams' captain spot. It just makes sense just because he's been dominant, and I don't expect him to stop anytime soon. But who knows? I think Tyler Urban's going to get some touches. I mean, yeah, Aaron Jones could be healthy, but I don't know if they really want to use him as a workhorse this game just because you're going against the JV squad 49ers. It's tough to think if that's going to be like a decoy kind of activation to make him still think about Aaron Jones, or if they're actually going to use him. I mean, he's healthy. He wants to go, but if I was the medical staff, I'd set him out just because it's the 49ers and they're all banged up, but that's just me.
This one's a little bit harder to play tonight because there are so many choices to build on both of these lineups. I mean, you could really play whatever you want in tonight's lineups. There's affordable guys you can put in that captain spot and mix that lineup up good. You could even afford to put Devontae Adams in with some other, higher quality players because you got guys that you could pay down to, like Trent Taylor for a few $100, who may be peppered with a lot of targets tonight and really pay off that value. So, I think it's going to be a hard one for me tonight because I'm not putting in 150 mass multi-entry here. I'm going to ride just a few lineups, see how it goes. But there is a lot of combinations you could play.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now I want to reel back into our podcast listeners. We got to recap week 8 before we go into week 9, Dan. So week 8, I mean, I'm not going to go too much into detail. It's just a crappy week all around. I don't think you can take too much to it because I don't want to be reactionary to just last week's results to pivot off of it and go to this week's results. I think it was more of an outlier week. You could take some signals from it, but I'm not going to overreact too much to last week's. I believe it was a kind of like a fluky week, if you will.
Yeah, last week was, I don't know. Recapping the notes from our show, I mean, we were on some games. Tennessee, Cincinnati put up some points. We talked about Green Bay, Minnesota like we had. It just, again, to win a GPP, you've got to be contrarian. I've got to strap a set on going into next week, Justin, and make those plays like the Miami defense, like Corey Davis, like DJ Dallas, and that would have helped me tremendously. Instead, I got too conservative, and it just didn't all play out. Even Tyreek Hill, I loved Tyreek Hill all week, and I had him in my Holmes lineup, but I didn't play him anywhere else. So I really just got to regroup, refocus. Jonnu Smith let me down. I did have some good lineups, some of those good stacks, but Jonnu crushed me there. He's just not getting the targets. Instead, they went to Corey Davis. And again, that one little play is the difference between a winning lineup and a losing lineup. And instead of going with Corey Davis, I went with Jonnu, and that just didn't work out.
Sad, man. Jonnu Smith. I mean, you got the Corey Davis, right? You said Corey Davis. I said A.J. Brown last week. A.J. Brown does have those dud games here and there, but at least this year, you're seeing him kind of still be involved even in those dud games. And I mean, I like, the usage is there. Corey Davis looks pretty good. The offense just looks solid all around, and it's always a good offense. But this week, we got to bounce back. You mentioned it at the start of the show. We got to bounce back. Obviously, Tua last week didn't do great for me, but he did not lose the game for the Dolphins. And as a rookie quarterback coming off that crazy injury in your first NFL start going against Aaron Donald, I'm okay with the performance, honestly. So before people want to crap me for his 93 yards, and I get it. It wasn't a good stat performance, but he didn't lose him in the game. He just got his feet wet, and I believe the stats are going to come later in the year. It's not an easy first NFL start against Aaron Donald. And honestly, Aaron Donald made him fumble the ball on his first pass attempt of the game. I would have him autograph that ball. I would say thank you. I mean, it's an honor to have you, make me fumble the ball. I mean, out of anyone in the NFL that you'd want to cause a fumble for you, I'd be honored that it's Aaron Donald. So you could chalk it up to, oh yeah, that guy's not human. That's fine.
Oh, he's the best in the business, without a doubt. There, and hey, I know you're on the Dolphin train there, and loving Tua, got the jersey, and hopefully it's not just coach speak. Look at that, repping tonight. They said this is not just an addition for Tua. I mean, he's their guy. So publicly, Coach Flores says he's our guy, and we're going to build around him. And hey, Arizona this week, the schedule lightens up. He's got the Jets coming up, so I think better times ahead for your boy Tua.
Oh yeah, I'm still riding the train. People can be like, "He didn't look that great." I don't care. I'm not worried about it. Not concerned. It's Tua time. It's always Tua time. 4-3 Dolphins. Let's go. Let's ride. But quarterbacks this week, I mean, I'm starting it off. I'm taking one right after your list. I already see your list, Dan. I always have eyes on your list right there. And that's got to be Josh Allen, 7K against Seattle. I mean, Seattle is just – I told you, man. I warned you. You can't even be surprised about that. I warned you. This is a Seattle defense that just likes to look like Swiss cheese. It's crazy. But Buffalo Bills, highest game total of the week at 55 points. It's insane. And the Bills are underdogs. You're going to be thrown. It's going to be a shootout game. You're going to see Josh Allen and his rocket arm and his highlight reel himself versus Russell Wilson. You got to game stack this game. This is the game you want to be targeting this week. I love this game. I'm excited to watch this game at 1 o'clock. Josh Allen, you already know wide receivers are going to be playing. We're going to talk about him in the wide receiver section. But Josh Allen, I love. And obviously, you can't not love Russell Wilson with the second highest team implied total at 29 this week. And like I already mentioned, the over under. This game's just a game you want to target. I love both Russell Wilson this week, and I love Josh Allen this week.
Well, call it a show, buddy. We're done. No, just kidding.
That's going to do it, though.
So definitely love Russ, but I did, doing a little bit of early lineup mixes here, liked Josh Allen more. Russ is just pricey. You want to take his receivers in a stack, it becomes really pricey. I wasn't really as crazy about the lineup build, but when I did build one with Josh Allen, and I'll talk about a stack later, I really liked how the lineup played out. So at 7,000, I think Josh Allen's a prime play. Again, you're peeking through my iMac camera here and looking at my show notes. But I'll match you, man. If I'm not going Josh Allen this week, I'm going Deshaun Watson. same price range, just $100 more. Deshaun Watson at 7,100. And when you stack him with his wide receivers, or there's a couple ways you could play that Houston stack, it leaves you a lot more money to build the rest of your lineup. So I'm loving Deshaun Watson. I think Watson and Allen are my two best plays. Like you, I love that Seattle-Buffalo game, but I also love that Houston-Jacksonville game of just no defenses, high pace. The only maybe question I have is, could Jacksonville's rookie quarterback run it back enough to have a decent day and keep it competitive, and Lamar doesn't have to put on the brakes later in the game.
I hear you. I mean, that's the always problem I have with Baltimore, I guess, against teams that aren't that good, because Lamar looks great and then he just gets set in the fourth quarter, but then against good teams he can't really perform this year. It's weird. But I will also say, at 6,500, I like Ben Roethlisberger. And there's one reason why I like him a lot. And if you look against their opponent, it's the Cowboys. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Man, just keep kicking me while I'm down. Kicking me while I'm down. And I can't disagree. I probably should have wrote his name down. The only thing is, I'm more on a Connor Strong when we get to running back. So, I don't know how big of a blow-up game Big Ben will be, but for Justin Cash Money over there, I definitely can't argue with that pick. I guess if I'm playing down, I'm going to go down to the Derek Carr range at 5,700. I like a little more two-sided match there with Vegas and the Chargers, a little Carr Herbert shootout there, and Carr at 5,700 I think is a nice play. If I'm not playing down, we know we love Watson Allen, but if I'm not paying down, I'm paying up. It just seems like this year the big money scrambling quarterbacks, at least one of them's going off every week. I'm mad I didn't go heavier on Mahomes. We did talk now, even though we're a little down and we're a little upset with how last week panned out. We did talk about the Kansas City onslaught last week, and it happened. If you went Kansas City onslaught, you just needed Miami defense with it. And really, we gave our listeners good advice last week. We just didn't play our cards. Me specifically did not play my lineups kind of, with the right correlation that took off. So, the advice wasn't bad. It's just putting it together the right way.
It's okay, though. Exactly. What the advice was there, so that's okay. That's what matters. Hopefully the listeners made their own lineups based on our advice and didn't chalk it up on exactly what we had. We don't put our lineups out there, though. We just talk about the games and players we like, so it's not our fault.
Right? Yeah, I guess the last quarterback, Kyler Murray's attractive at 7,800, but very low priced, in the same range of our Watson, Josh Allen guys. And I know it hasn't been a year like last year, but I'm not going to ever ignore on a week Lamar Jackson, especially at 6,900. I mean, there could definitely be something there. So I think, to wrap up the quarterback for me, it's Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson is my top stacks, quarterbacks of the week that I'll build around. But Lamar will probably be that third guy I'm going to run to.
Yeah, I like Lamar. I'll go for a cheaper option for people playing, just so they can say they want to try to line up with a really, really cheap quarterback. We're talking sub 5,500. So no, it's not Tua. I'm gonna free Tua from my reins and have him go off this week. So there's that. But it's going to be Drew Lock against Atlanta. So 5,200, Drew Lock. This dude just throws the ball deep, and all he needs is someone else to hit for you to have a big week. So he's more of a GPP play. I'm okay with stacking him with someone named Jerry Jeudy. So Jerry Jeudy is the first wide receiver I like a lot. He led all wide receivers in air yards this past week, which is kind of impressive because it's Jerry Jeudy. You don't really expect it, but this dude's always open, and he's 4,700, Dan. 4,700 against Atlanta? I don't understand that at all. I like the signals I'm seeing from him. I didn't like Jerry Jeudy at all. Well, I liked Jerry Jeudy coming out of college, but I didn't like him as much as I liked my guy CeeDee Lamb, my guy Jalen Reagor, or my guy Justin Jefferson. So he's my fourth-ranked wide receiver. But this wide receiver class is just insane. Every single rookie is basically producing this year. And it's the one year I didn't think they would because of COVID. But guess what? Doesn't matter. They're all going off. So Jerry Jeudy, 4,700 against Atlanta. That's all I got to say.
Hey, I'm liking Jeudy this week. I think he's due for a breakout week. I think he's a guy to have in your dynasty redraft leagues with a softer schedule coming up. Drew Lock built a little bit of confidence last week with a nice little comeback. So nice low-cost play there, Justin.
I'm always here for the low-cost plays, Dan. Who's your wide receivers that you're looking at this week? I don't want to steal your wide receivers or steal your quarterbacks, so I'll let you steal some of my wide receivers first. How's that?
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Hopefully I'm taking your guys. I'm not sure, but
say his name. Do it to me. Say my favorite player's name.
You're liking Josh Allen, so you gotta love Stephon Diggs, your boy, 7,400.
Yes, sir. You gotta play him. You just gotta.
He's a number one. And if you're going to have a week where you're going to like Josh Allen, you have to love Stephon Diggs. John Brown's not 100%, so I think Stephon Diggs is the deep ball guy there and is ready to have a knockout week. I love Will Fuller at 6,800 in that same breath of Stephon Diggs with Deshaun Watson. This Texan team, 2 weeks to prepare. They're healthy. I see a lot of manufactured touchers there for Will Fuller and even Brandon Cooks. A lot less. I think he's 5,500. So the Fuller Cooks combination with Watson's a nice little stack. And there's some nice, I guess I'll stay in this range first. Tyler Lockett, 6,800. I'm going with the Lockett week this week. Really believe matchup wise for Seattle, they will own the slot. And I think with that matchup there versus Buffalo gives up a lot to the slot. So that makes Lockett pretty nice. Keenan Allen's going to be a popular pick at 7K. Julio with Ridley out 7,200. So I think depending on how you play your stacks, there's some nice guys in that range. You're not going to be able to afford them all. So you're going to have to play down somewhere. Darnell Mooney at 3,900. This might be the week. I think he might hit one. And then
like that.
Marcus Johnson at 3,000.
I didn't expect you to list every single wide receiver you like them, but yeah, keep going.
Do you want any more? I got 2 more that I like. I am giving you 3 more I like. You give me a few, and then I'll come back.
You didn't take a lot, my guys. You're good. I like Darnell Mooney a lot. Marcus Johnson, definitely interesting. I think he's talented. I like him. I like Deontay Johnson. I said I liked Ben Roethlisberger for the same reasons against Dallas. Deontay Johnson gets all the targets. DJ Chark. I mean, it's tough. He's more of a GPP play just because you don't know what the heck you're going to expect.
Ring some music over there. DJ Chark, we playing back. Come on.
You get them both right there. I mean, that's just what it is. Cole Beasley, it's not sexy, man. But for cash, he's going to get you at least 20 points. Just what you think in a high scoring game. And I could not be myself. Actually, I'm not going to say his name. There's a wide receiver here, Dan, who I say every week. I'm not saying his name this week. I'm just not going to say it because he's got to do well this week. So I'm not going to say it. But Justin Jefferson, I like him in a bounce back game at 6,100. The other wide receiver, I'm not going to mention. I'm still not going to mention. But you all should know who it is. Dan, don't say his name. You can't do this to me.
But who aren't you mentioning?
I'm not mentioning my guy because I want to make him do good this week. So I'm not going to talk about him. Because what happens is I talk about these guys and they don't do anything. And I'm not talking about them.
But now our listeners aren't going to know who it is.
That's okay. They should just listen back to every single episode.
At this point.
Let's just say he's in the highest scoring game. Well, second highest score in this game this week with the 52.5 point over under going against Patrick Mahomes. That's all I'm saying. I'm not gonna say
your
anymore.
boy.
No, I'm not gonna say anymore. No, don't say it. Don't say
DJ Moore.
Oh, don't say it. Oh,
DJ
he's
Moore.
done. He's screwed now. He's screwed. Oh, don't play him.
You didn't say it. I said it, so you should be okay.
Okay, good.
Should be
Okay,
okay.
go ahead. That's for a series I like this week. I think we touched on.
Keep the faith.
Who do you like? Well, I mean,
no, that was good coverage there. I say also don't forget about Marvin Jones at 5,100. He seems to finally be coming through. That was a good pick last week. I called Marvin Jones.
Well, yeah, that's all right. I mean,
he did well.
You called him, but I think you called him for the wrong reasons. You didn't know Kenny Galladay was gonna get hurt.
It worked out even better. But Galladay had a tough matchup, and I had Stafford. Stafford ended up with over 300 yards. Could have been even better. He almost had another touchdown to Marvin Jones in garbage time at the end there and missed him by like a couple inches on a throw. So that was painful to watch because that would help tremendously. But, you mentioned Judy, 4,700, nice price. So I think it's a good coverage, man, of a good frame of wide receivers you want to be looking at this week that you can have some nice lineup builds.
Yeah, I mean, listeners, just take what we say and make your own lineups. Don't listen to our favorite ones. Just listen to all these guys we talk about and make your plays. Running back, the king is back. Are you playing Christian McCaffrey? Should we get 8,500?
Man, I have him in my notes, but I still see kind of Mike Davis sprinkling in there a little bit, and McCaffrey just not going off in week 1.
GPP play Christian McCaffrey. That's why it's GPP. Not all your lineups. Just put a lineup in. You don't want to be sitting down Sunday night, Dan, and saying, "Man, if I played Christian McCaffrey, I'd be rich right now." Like that would be the worst thing ever to fade Christian McCaffrey. I'm saying you can't fade him like that.
He's just really hard to build into certain lineup construction, especially with some of those stacks we like in Seattle and Buffalo. But let me mess around with some lineups a little bit more this week and see how I can get a McCaffrey build at 8,500.
Yeah, I want to say I have 2 running backs I really like a lot this week. One is Chase Edmonds. I've been on Chase Edmonds' train this whole offseason, and I'm finally happy he's going to get the chance to show what he's going to do against Miami's run defense, which isn't that great. Miami's run defense can get exposed occasionally, so play Chase Edmonds. They have really good I'm okay with Chase Edmonds. My second guy I like a lot this week is if you scroll down a little bit, you see DJ Dallas. I mentioned I'm stacking this game. I don't mind DJ Dallas in a match against Buffalo. Buffalo's run defense hasn't looked that good this year, which is weird because last year they were really, really good at run defense, and this year they're just not that good. And I already mentioned the over-under being high, and DJ Dallas looked pretty good last week in a game that was kind of up-tempo for the Seattle Seahawks and pass catching back.
Good combination. I got to, have those names in the notes here. I think we're on a similar wavelength, brother. James Robinson still intriguing to me. 7,000, a little bit pricey, but I think he's one possible playback in that Houston-Jacksonville stack that I like. I think this is Robinson's last really good matchup before his schedule gets harder. Again, with that rookie quarterback, though, they may stack that box. We'll see how it plays out. But I think you missed the money play of the week. The FF Coach Dan money play of the week, even going against my heart, James Conner Strong. These are the games that Pittsburgh just mashes in, man. People are running backs are just becoming heroes against the Dallas Cowboys. And, even though Dallas played a little bit better last week, they're in trouble versus the Steelers. We have another quarterback change. You're going to Garrett Gilbert, I believe, is going to be the starter for Dallas. The XFL was his last stint, I believe. I think my boys are in trouble, and I think Connor's going to rack up a lot of points. 6,900 too is a nice value.
Yes, sir. You got to play him. You got to play Lamar because they're both 6,900. I think that's just an automatic win right there. We could cheat the DraftKings system right there by doing that. Antonio Gibson, this guy's just fun to watch play football, man. I mean, I'm a big fan of a lot of Washington football team players with Gibson and McLaurin. I didn't mention McLaurin, but play McLaurin. You got to have at least one line with McLaurin, but Antonio Gibson, 5,100. I like him, but I also like David Montgomery. The offensive line sucks. That's the only problem. The offensive line for Chicago is very, very bad. But Montgomery, I'm not a fan of him, but he didn't look that bad last week. Like, he looks pretty solid. It's a tough matchup, but I don't mind him. I'm probably paying up, like I said, at running back. I'm probably going to be playing the Derrick Henry, James Robinson, James Conner, Chase Edmonds kind of guys, so I don't have to worry about trying to mine for running back value. I'd rather mine for wide receiver value. But I figured I got to give the listeners the full spectrum.
I'm gonna come back to this a little bit more later on, but I'm gonna say you would be on the right path with Montgomery. He's been kind of sneaky in a really good situation because he's getting the volume. He's our only guy to really run the ball. They'll kind of give Cordell Patterson a few touches per game, and he does nothing with them. He's their pass catching guy. He's getting that with Cohen out, so he gets volume, but he's not doing a lot with it. And this week, the Bears look like they're going to be out up to 4 offensive linemen. And that's on that already suspect offensive line that you were just talking about. So
GDP play Dave Montgomery.
It might be ugly for Monty this week.
All right.
But I think
I didn't see the offensive line report. That's my fault.
Yeah, I just got that update today. And then I think one other running back that I would point out just off of recency bias from last week. He may not blow up as much, but you're looking at CMC at 8,500. I think Dalvin Cook at 8,200 saves you a few $100s, and you're going to get a similar performance, if not better.
What about Justin Jackson, 4,900? If you want to try to mine for value, Justin Jackson, pass catching back, going against the Raiders, I think he's a solid play at 4,900.
He has been looking better every week. I think he's starting to get his legs under him. Josh Kelly's looking worse every week. And I think there are going to be some lineups where you are going to need Justin Jackson at that value of 4,900 to get some of those builds you want. So happy you mentioned him. Great to play. He's one of the few running backs I have highlighted.
Awesome. Now tight ends. It's a little disgusting here, Dan. I'm not a fan of these tight ends this week. It's gross. So I'm okay with paying up for Travis Kelce. This dude is, I want to say, 7th in the league in receiving yards, which is always crazy. Kelce's just consistent. He's just always there every year. The dude's a beast. Hits his targets, and he's looking really good this year, and I like him in the matchup against Carolina.
Solid. You can't go wrong with Kelce anytime this year. I think for cash, he's just been as consistent as they could get. So you definitely can't go wrong, Justin. My issue with Travis Kelce is there are 2 elite tight ends at a lot less of a price than him this week. I have 4 plays I love at tight end. And overall this year, I've been picking tight end pretty good, except for when I go with my heart like last week and take Jonnu Smith, which I will not make that mistake this week. And I want to say I love Darren Waller at 5,800. We talked about that shootout with the Chargers with a very high over-under of about 53. And then you have Mark Andrews, who I was just kind of messing around with a stack here with Lamar, talking about Lamar being so cheap at 6,900 versus the Colts. I think, every week, Justin, you and I look at the over-unders and we look at the matchups and we have those few games that we love. And at the end of the show, I normally say, but Justin, there's this one game that kind of looks sneaky. And I think that's the Ravens and the Colts. I think those defenses, especially the Colts defense, is vulnerable. I think this could become a high scorer. Even Philip Rivers has been putting up some points, so I think they'll run it back. And Mark Andrews at 4,800. Is that a typo? Am I seeing that right? I know he's had a quiet year, Justin, but Mark Andrews is not a $4,800 tight end. That is a very concentrated offense, and I'm starting to really get higher on this game as we go. So I love Wallers and Andrews. If you're going to pay down a little bit on tight end, but I think they're going to be chalky. Hunter Hurst Henry there, Hunter Henry at 4,000, Hayden Hurst at 4,100, however you want to say their names. They're in that nice 4,000, 4,100 price range. I love those two guys as GPP plays.
Yeah, I like those shots a lot right there. I think you got to mention Ebron, man, because it's Dallas. You always got to mention. It's never not in play.
Steelers, Justin saying this week. You could be onto something there.
I could be. I also like. Ingram. Ingram's being involved a lot, and I think this game against Washington football team could be. Not the highest paced game, but at 4,300, I think he's one of the best values at the tight end position. He's getting a lot of targets. He's got to make more out of it, and I think this could be the week where Ingram has himself a great game.
If you want to punt at tight end, Justin, I want to say Jordan Akins is back. He's 100% full practice participation. Before he got hurt for the Texans, he was their number one, and he was getting some pretty good, targets and games. He was just flashing. He was starting to, show it. So at 3,300, I think he's a nice punt play, especially in, that Texans game. If you're stacking those lineups, he might be a sneaky GPP play.
Gotcha. Definitely keep an eye out for him now. Dan, we got defenses to talk about. And last week, Miami, we had a nice little text message conversation on Sunday. You're saying that I said some stat about Jared Goff and turnovers. Well, guess what? You're wrong. I listened to that thing twice or three times the way through, man. And I never said that. I said Miami was a great play, and I gave you this infamous sound effect because Miami's always a play. That's cool. So I'm sorry that you thought I would, do that to you. I would never go against my Miami Dolphins, Dan.
So you gave me the music and the chant because you settled with it was the Dolphins, but you did give a quick mention of just Jared Goff doesn't make.
I did not. I listened to the defensive section. I didn't do it. I would never say. I don't like Jared Goff.
Maybe it was pre-show. You said I heard it somewhere. It's in my head.
It was probably one of the other podcasts you listened to, Dan. I would never say that about Jared Goff. I wouldn't say it. I just wouldn't. I don't have Jared Goff stats like that. I think I'm mentioning this.
Something.
I feel like
I'm over it. I'm over it. Again, I've been feeling pretty good about defenses. I've been playing some pump plays that have panned out, and I've got another, I feel, money pump play this week. I am having flashbacks of it, a year ago when Nick Foles burnt me. And I remember when he had a bad Jacksonville O-line, he could not do anything. And now all of a sudden the Bears, without 4 offensive linemen, I know the Titans aren't, setting the world on fire with their pass rush, but when you get a great matchup, you get a great matchup. I think Tennessee could score some points, and Nick Foles could be in for a long day with just no offensive linemen. Hopefully Clowney shows up to play for a change. That'd be great. At $3,000, I think Tennessee is a beautiful pump play. I also like Houston as another option at 3,100 versus the Jags and a rookie quarterback. And in his first start, if Matt Stafford for some reason doesn't play, he's on the COVID list. I think, he's not COVID positive. I think he could get cleared and play. The Vikings could be a nice, even lower pump play. I think 2,400. And then if you're going to pay up, the Steelers versus my Cowboys, 4,900 is high, but they might just put on a clinic. So they're not in Pittsburgh though. So I'm going to have a tough time paying up that much for the Steelers.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with all these picks so far. I agree with all of them. I like them all. The Titans was my play of the week, so I'm glad we're on the same page there, Dan. I'm not going to argue against any of yours. I'm just going to stick with those because I don't want to add another defense in for the listeners to just keep in mind. I agree with. I literally had all those defenses that you just mentioned in my defensive list, so we're on the same page. And I don't think I got to say any more. I think you covered it pretty well, Dan. So thank you for that. making my job easier, making less time for the listeners to listen to. We're being efficient for the listeners this week. Now,
We're
stack
locked
of
in,
the
man.
week,
We're locked in.
Yeah, we're locked in. Stack of the week, man. It's Josh Allen. It's Stephon Diggs. It's running it back with DK Metcalf because I don't care about this Tyler Lockett week. But guess what? You can play Tyler Lockett too. It's crazy. Holy crap! You can just do that. You can do that right there. That's the quadruple stack of the week. It's both receivers for Seattle, Stephon Diggs, and Joshua Allen, the human highlight reel himself. That's my stack of the week, Dan. What's your stack of the week?
I love it, man. I love it. I think I have 3 stacks I'm messing with here. You named one of them. Okay. I think that's something we'll look at different combinations. I think you're onto something there, especially if Josh Allen gets running. That could be really nice. It's a little harder to pay up for Russ Wilson, like we said. But I have 2 stacks. One I came into the show with, and one I'm leaving in the Money podcast with. I went into the show with a Deshaun Watson stack there. All right, with Cooks and Fuller. I might even go quadruple stack with Akins that is low value and just hope Watson goes off in an onslaught game versus the Jags, who are, they're playing for a number 1 draft pick there in Trevor Lawrence. And you play that back with, I'm loving DJ Chark week, man. I just think it makes for a really nice stack. And then the other sneaky one is Lamar Jackson with Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews. You'll never find those 3 guys any cheaper. And play that back with Mr. Marcus Johnson at 3,000, and you could build your lineup any way you want. So I think we gave our listeners 3 solid stacks this week.
Yeah, I mean, I like that last one, that the quadruple 5-time stack you had in the Houston game is something else, man. But hey, I like the boldness of it. That's going to do it for this week of the End of Money podcast. My Twitter, once again, is at Justin_FFB. Dan's Twitter is at FFCoachDan. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at EndofMoneyDFS_. Find out when we go live on YouTube around 7 o'clock Eastern time every Thursday. Subscribe if you're new to the podcast. Any last words for our listeners, Dan?
Hey, we're mad about week 8, and when we're mad, we normally bounce back with a focused performance, and that's why we got the show under 40 minutes this week. Lock it in. I hope if you and I, Justin, aren't in the money, we certainly hope all our listeners are.
I couldn't say it better myself. All right, I'll see you guys next time.